Headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.
J.K. Rowling's right, isn't she, that we can't necessarily trust the Labour Party. Some would say also the Tory Party, after some of the things that Boris has said. If politicians don't know what a woman is, how can they protect women's rights?
I do find it kind of interesting that you've got somebody taking on someone who has such a stellar career in law and a stellar career in human rights, equalities and things like this. And actually, so you've got someone who's an author of fiction trying to tell a barrister what the law says. But I completely understand that there is a difference in the sense of how an individual person wants to define a woman and how women in general do versus what the law says. What the law says about gender, what the law says about transition, what the law says within the Gender Recognition Act and the Equality Act are not exactly the same as a biological definition of woman or anyone's social definition of passing through society as a woman, because everyone for centuries has been passing through society as how they appear, and people have been policing appearance and stereotypes for centuries.
Katie, first of all, J.K. Rowling is a woman, and therefore J.K. Rowling is rather more entitled than Keir Starmer to define what a woman is, I would say, wouldn't you? She's not telling a barrister what the law is. She's pointing out a woman is probably best placed to know what a woman is. I thought...
Well, she actually did say he got the law wrong, which I thought was quite funny.
Every human being has surely a basic knowledge of simple biology. There is a simple matter of fact. One can be totally respectful of trans rights and be totally respectful of your rights to call yourself what you want, to live your life as you want. However, where trans rights conflict with women's rights, we need to pay attention to whose rights should be more important. And I would say women's rights are more important because of the risk to women from biological men, whether they are living genuinely as trans people, or I think the real threat really comes from men who are using and abusing trans rights to gain access to women's safe spaces. My daughter's right as a 15-year-old to go into a changing room and be safe and not have anyone who is a biological man in that room, I think trumps, for instance, yours or any other trans person's feelings. Simple as that.
And to a degree, I agree. And I think we all have a right to be safe. And I think the law already has those separate definitions of woman within the sex.
No, it doesn't. We have trans women
we have sex discrimination protection within the Equality Act, and we have transition protection within the Equality Act, and we have exemptions and protections where there is a reasonable position to have those things. So we already have those things laid out. It's down to interpretation. The law already provides protection for both. What we have, though, is we have a lot of road crashes of things like in the prison sector where things like risk assessments have gone wrong, where the things shouldn't have happened there. No one with a sexual violence history should be in any safe space, single-sex space, particularly in prison where there's so many vulnerable women.
But yet the law has allowed that to happen. Prison governors say, well, yes, if this person says that they're a woman, we have to put them in a women's prison. We've had refuges. We've had people sacked from refuges because they're saying there shouldn't be male bodies in women's refuges, when women are largely going to refuges to seek safety from sexual and physical violence from men. To me, it's not even a debate. The real issue, I think, is that this is developing, I think, into a row that trans activists who don't necessarily represent the majority of trans people, which are a very, very, very small number of people who probably all hold completely different individual rights on these things. There isn't a trans community in that sense. And so, as in the same way, women don't all hold the same views. But they're trampling over women's rights, and they're not doing any favours to people who are trans, because they're actually sort of turning, women, against this issue, which is surely not the right thing at all.
I hear you on that completely, and I think you actually nailed it when you said not even all women agree. And women don't agree on this. I've just come back from spending the whole weekend at the Women of the World Festival run by Jude Kelly in London at the South Bank, and it's full of hundreds, and in previous years pre-COVID, it's been full of thousands of women. And those people have actually been 100%, or maybe it's 95%, who knows, but it's a majority accepting place of trans. And it's a place where you actually have no problem being there. And I was actually arguing a middle of the road position, which is where I would put myself, I would say, of saying we need to be able to have respectful debates about this. So you just said there's no debate, but there are people on on the trans accepting side within people who are women, also saying there is no bait. And I was arguing to us blue in the face yesterday with someone saying, but Katy, why will you not call yourself a woman? I was very comfortable being introduced as a trans person. I don't need to take language that has already
That's what I was asked to introduce you as, trans person, trans woman.
But
I would not call you a woman because you're not a woman. You're a trans woman.
And I'm okay with you not calling me a woman, but it is also other people's rights to call themselves women. And it's
it's not. No, because that's a lie.
And it's and it is also the right of other women to choose to call me a woman or to use she pronouns if they want. I'm very happy with they pronouns because it excludes me from the entire debate of let's have this polarized binaries. But I do think that we have to recognise that, J.K. Rowling does not represent all women.
I think she represents the vast majority of women who've woken up.
I don't think that is true. The social attitude surveys actually...
No. Social attitude surveys are... No, that's because most people have not woken up to women's sport being obliterated by failed male athletes taking over in women's sport. They've not woken up to boys and teenage boys and men being in their daughters' changing rooms.
And there are obvious cases like in sport and things like that where things have clearly gone wrong. People have made what they thought was an inclusive decision, but it has clearly backfired, and they did not put the safety of women. They did not put the safety of women and girls first, which I absolutely do agree you should do. And
Katy,
I think
the trouble is it didn't backfire. That was what they planned to do. That was the thing.
Who planned to do this?
The people who...
Where's the conspiracy theory for trans?
Anybody who is fighting to have male-bodied athletes competing against women, knowing the obvious physical differences, it wasn't an accident. It wasn't an accident. They knew what they were doing.
But I don't believe that. Where is this conspiracy that people are fighting to put male-bodied athletes in women's spaces?
There are whole campaign groups. That's literally what they're doing. Look, we're going to have to leave it. Katy, I really hope you will come on again. It's been very good to talk to you, and I agree with an awful lot of what you say, but I disagree with a lot as well. But
good talk.
Hot talk. Bold talk. Talk radio.
Listen on your smart speaker.
Watch it live on your smart TV.
The world headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.